Hey, welcome back to the eDrum Workshop. I'm Luke, and today some pretty big news has landed. There were rumours circulating online over the weekend about DW being bought by Roland, and it turns out that they weren't unsubstantiated. DW will become a subsidiary of Roland by the 3rd of October 2022. Now, I'm not the first source of this information. Depending on your level of interest, you might already know, and of course I'm just going off what's publicly available or what I've been directed to by others. So let's have a look over what we know so far. I'm going to zero in on a few points in particular that I find interesting and weigh in with some opinions about what it could mean for electronic drummers as a whole, while trying to avoid too much speculation. So to begin with, although Roland are buying DW, it looks from the press releases like they're trying to keep things kind of going the way that they are now, but just bigger and with the combined strengths of both companies. The three main players at DW, Chris Lombardi, Don Lombardi and John Good, will retain their positions, and there's a lot of talk about the two companies' mutual respect for each other's work and whatnot. DW also owns the PDP, Latin Percussion, Gretsch and Slingerland brands, and although there's always the fear of an acquisition making your favourite brands disappear, there are plenty of references across these documents to the strength of the DW name and its known quality in the acoustic drum world. And I would agree with this. DW is a highly regarded brand, so it's unsurprising that Roland are making a point about wanting to leverage that. However, the most interesting tidbits for electronic drummers come from a few choice quotes. A trailblazer in acoustic drums for the past 50 years, we've been equally blown away by the breakthrough innovation and new technology that Drum Workshop has been developing. Through joint development with DW, we aim to develop and globally launch innovative hybrid drum products that combine acoustic and electronic technologies that have never been seen before. If we jump over to the slideshow, we can also see very explicit reference to this in a 3-point list titled Why Drum Workshop. Roland and DW are aligned on a future with combined electronic and acoustic drums, and we are buying game-changing technology that allows us to accelerate the introduction of the next generation of hybrid drums. If we jump down to the purpose of acquisition section, they talk about collaborating with DW to develop next-generation hybrid drums, as well as integrating DW's software, content and services. So these documents effectively say that DW have been working on something that's going to change the game of the electronic and or hybrid drum market, and that along with the DW brands, Roland are buying that. Now, exactly what that is, I couldn't say. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of speculation over what it could mean. It does seem pretty apparent though from what's written here that Roland would rather have whatever this is than compete with it. And to me, that's a combination of exciting, new technology or possibilities always are, and maybe a little bit worrying in terms of overall market competition. But I'll come back round to that point a little bit later on. This big focus on the hybrid market is definitely interesting as well. As many electronic drummers are aware, Roland brought out their new line of kit, the eDrums Acoustic Design or VAD series, back in 2020. And according to this slideshow, Roland say themselves that this has opened up a new customer base for them, and I'm not really too surprised about that. I've talked at length before about the divide between electronic drum purists and those who effectively want their eDrums to just be a quiet acoustic drum kit, and I think that the VAD kit in particular appeal to that second segment of electronic drummers, and they're probably even bringing over people that would have scoffed at the idea of playing electronic drums before. So throughout this slideshow there are breakdowns of what this hybrid market is, and it looks like Roland think that the DW brand is going to be a key part of expanding this. Previously, I personally wouldn't have classed the VAD drums as hybrid drums. Sure, they're in acoustic shells, but they're fully electronic, cymbals and all. So I'd have always just classed these as electronic drums that look like acoustics. I would class a combination of electronic and acoustic sound sources as hybrid, but it looks like Roland are using this as a catch-all term for everything in between those 2 points. I also notice here that they highlight both the DW and LP brands specifically when talking about expanding the hybrid market, so maybe that hints at hybrid percussion down the road as well. Who knows, that is a little bit of speculation. Roland's basic plan seems to be pretty well highlighted in this amazingly titled corporate jargon bingo card. Strong synergy expected throughout the value chain. This little handshaking graphic here should probably be a couple of people patting each other on the back for that title. But again, it references game-changing technology, the use of DW's US factory for its products, potentially promising, and the leveraging of both brand names. The next part about boosting DW sales outside of the US with Roland sale power again suggests that they're hoping to continue bolstering both brands individually as well as together, which I think is probably good. If we go back up a couple of pages, there's also a breakdown of the regional sales, which shows that Roland have a pretty consistent, well-balanced share of the market across different regions, whereas DW weighs more heavily towards the US. Roland obviously believe that their distribution and marketing can help the DW brand become stronger across other territories. They also mention cross-selling of Roland's VAD series and DW's hardware. DW makes some pretty solid hardware, so I think that seems like a good move. And there's an even bigger breakdown of the electronic and acoustic markets further up this slideshow, and that really shows why Roland want to get in on the acoustic market. Look at that big old 77% chunk. It is quite surprising to me that Roland say that they're not reaching the acoustic world. I feel like if you ask any acoustic drummer to name an electronic drum company, or if you ask them what company makes triggers, it's pretty likely that Roland will be one of their first suggestions. But I suppose that doesn't always mean that those people would be Roland customers without a product that they would personally use. I'm not a marketing guy. I don't know. And the final part of the handshake of synergy shows another interesting little snippet. They're planning on using DW branded sound content in the Roland Cloud service. This is a subscription service where they have various virtual instruments, samples, and even electronic drum presets available to download. Now, I don't know exactly what DW branded sound content means for electronic drummers, but it could be another exciting part of the equation depending on how they plan to utilise it. So generally speaking, I've got a mixture of excitement and apprehension. From what's in these documents and statements, there's potentially something really interesting in the pipeline. As far as Roland's concerned, it looks like DW will be a great asset to them and their goal of expanding their range of electronic, hybrid and acoustic drums. Having Roland behind the distribution of whatever DW has planned might be really good for getting it in front of as many people as possible. And of course, if they're keeping the DW branding, it might appeal to more people than Roland would have done by themselves. On the flip side, a big company becoming even bigger and having more market share has the potential to stifle variety and consumer choice. I think that sometimes Roland's size gets underestimated. They're not just an electronic drum company, as detailed in the slideshow, they also already have over 60% of the electronic drum market according to their data. They're a massive corporation and they've effectively taken a competitor out of the market by purchasing them, as well as opened up their own reach into other markets in a pretty huge way. Competition is usually a good thing for the customer, but it remains to be seen how that's going to pan out and exactly what it means for electronic drummers. As always, let me know down in the comments what you think about it. If you want new kits or samples for your electronic drums, check out my store at theedrumworkshop.com, and above all, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!